So Richard Gladwell here for Sail World. We're here with Grant Dalton. Today's an auspicious day, day 30 of the AC72 program. How's it gone so far, Grant, if you look back at what you had started on day 1 and got to day 30? How would you rate the rate of gain in terms of a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, I don't know about a scale of 1 to 10, but I know that the boat that we launched on the 21st of July is going significantly quicker. And it's a sort of a percentage thing, because if you get 1 or 2% in any area, because you're going so fast, it becomes quite a big number. So let's say the boat was going 10% better than it was when it was launched, and it's doing 40 knots downwind, suddenly it's doing 44 in, sort of crude terms. So all teams will be experiencing this. You just make gains so quickly. And the sailability of the boat, being able to push the boat and lean on the boat is, I think, really, really important.
So in terms of, you've done round the world programs and America's Cup in 2007 here. What's the degree of technical difficulty with these boats in terms of getting them up to speed and tuning them and the amount of gain you get out of them?
Well, reliability is a big issue, because there's so much going on, there's so many loaded parts and there's so many working parts. So reliability is something that we need to, in this team, and all teams will need to eventually sort of move into that mode where you stop just throwing experiments at the boat and actually say, well, now we've got to get this thing around the track day after day, and it cannot break, because you could wipe a series out by having a decent breakage. So they are technical, but there's a point where you got to move from just a straight technical base to a reliability base. And we got pretty good at that in the last campaign, and there's lessons that we learned for the 07 campaign that we'll start to implement with the new boat to try and move to a package by the time it leaves here that in theory can get around the track without having any issues.
So you had a fairly interesting experience last Thursday when you went out sailing and then suddenly found there was a tornado hanging around Auckland. Can you run us through what happened that day?
Well, we were expecting breeze, and we were expecting maybe to get up sort of in the northeast. In Auckland, with the northeast and the tide going out, it's coming from basically out in the Pacific, so it builds up a decent seaway on top of a swell, and with the tide going out it just stands it up. And anybody that lives here and sails here knows that trying to get out through Rangi Channel on a decent nor'easterly is a good way to break your boat. So we knew that before we went out, but it grew a lot more as a result of the system coming ashore and spinning up that tornado, or the system that was so devastating in Hobsonville. And maybe if we'd stayed out for a couple of hours longer and just sort of sheltered, we would have come back in a lot less breeze, but we didn't. We decided to hightail it home. So it was dead downwind in waves. So if we were ever going to prove whether the thing would stand up, I guess we saw bigger loads on certain areas than we'd seen before, and whether it was going to want a pitch pole, then we were going to find out. I think that if we hadn't been foil assisted to be able to hold the boat up, the forward buoyancy wouldn't save you in that, because the boats with the wing are just so overpowered, even though you're dropping the flaps out of the wing. There's so much overturning moment. I don't even know whether you would have got through the bearaway. But it was okay, but there were moments. Were we in trouble? I don't know. But there were moments where you're going, well, here we go, we're going down one here. But the boat always lifted through, even though it would plough through back to the main beam. Lifted through and got us back safely, at pace.
So how far were those hulls going in? Were they both going in, or just one and lifting out, or what?
Well, it was hard to keep the boat foiling a lot of the time because the waves were quite big, and at times they were both going in. I think that what we proved on that day was that, and touch wood, and history may bite me on this statement, that we can sail safely in the conditions that was set up in the protocol to race in San Francisco. Was it a San Francisco chop with the tide going out? No. Was it exactly the same conditions as Oracle? No. But they were decent waves. We all sailed in good waves. We know when you're in a decent wave, and it was blowing hard. And the thing about a nor'easterly here compared to a sou'westerly is it's a denser breeze, because it's sort of moisture laden. So it was a good, solid, in-your-face breeze. And as I look at the opposition, and I think about whether they believe or not that they may have issues against us or not. Maybe they're more than comfortable. Probably they are. Are they going to try and screw with the timing of the races, the boundaries of the races for numbers of jibes, the wind speed of the races? Maybe they are. But the last week proved that we have worked to a design brief based on a protocol, and we can sail safely in that, so don't screw us around because we're able to do it.
So just putting some metrics around that day, what was the strongest wind speed you saw and fastest boat speed you did and biggest wave height?
Well, I don't know the wave height, because the thing about wave height is you always divide it by 2 for crap factor. Sort of found that in the Around the World race. Someone says, well, a 60-foot wave was probably 30. But we turned down about, well, we were seeing peaks of 30 at 6 metres. So at the top, that's where we're measuring it. Well, we're measuring it below 6 metres. We're actually measuring that wind speed at basically at sea level off our prod. So at the top of the rig we're seeing more than that. And upwind, no big deal. You can sail the boats and pretty much anything upwind because you just, ease the sails effectively, or ease the wing. But it was the sea state that just made it a little trickier. Peak speed, don't know. Couldn't see the speedo most of the time. It was just bloody white water. But we averaged, I think we came in and sort of from Tiri in about 22 minutes or something. We're going seriously quick. The thing was about the boat is you wanted to keep it fast. And Glenn working with Dean in that, because we were all plugged in and I was listening on board, Dean, they're talking the whole time about, okay, we're slowing down a bit, get it up, heat it up a little bit, get it going, and boom, it'd scoot back over 40 knots, and you'd fly off down another wave. But you were down them and out the other side and gone again before you basically had time to react. So the combination of the trimmers, well, particularly in this case, Glenn and Dean working together was, I think, pretty critical to being able to sail a boat like that in a big breeze with big waves. Big waves have been the issue, not so much the big breeze.
So how hard's sailing the boat like that? I mean, is it like a Whitbread or Volvo boat at that sort of speed, or is it guys sort of sailing Hail Marys and trying to get out of it, or is it a lot easier with the boat doing the work?
Well, Trey who did the Volvo and camper rig with a bunch of girls. You reckon that's wet? It would have been where we've been. It's not even cold. No, it's fine. We were racing the boat. We weren't trying to survive home. We were saying, okay, we're in a race. This is a race now. It's a day, maybe a day, or 2 days, or 3 days, or 4 days that we'll end up racing this thing. So let's race it. And if clouds hadn't called it that we thought it could have got worse, we probably would have turned up and gone back upwind again. No, we never felt apprehensive. But you always do in any boat. When it's blowing hard, you feel a bit apprehensive. Whether it's a multi-hull or a monohull, certainly in those version 5 boats in 25 knots, you seriously were looking up waiting for something to bust.
So what happens with the campaign from here? I mean, today's the last day of sailing. What's the game plan between now and the end of April?
Well, we're actually, assuming we get through today, all right, but the minute we drop the tow, we're into day 30, whether it is a good day or a bad day. So we're 2 days ahead of schedule. We set December the 14th as our last day to sail this boat, and we set that, I was trying to remember when we set that the other day actually, but it's certainly sometime in February or March this year, because we need to decommission this boat. Some parts will go across to the new boat. We could never contemplate sailing 2 boats. There's just, there's no, even if we could financially do it, which we can't, I don't even know how you'd do it. I think you'd end up basically half pregnant with 2 boats that aren't quite working properly. You got to put so much resource in moving the boat forward. I mean, you'd need 2 cranes. The only way you could do it is to set up 2 separate syndicates, effectively, that turned up to race each other on the water. So from now, we'll basically get the new boat in the shed. That's working through Christmas, and we'll have the new boat in the shed early January to launch. They never quite launch. These ones really seem to never quite launch when you want, but we want to be in the water as soon as we can in February, hopefully at the beginning of February. Between now and then, we've got some 33 testing we want to do next week, and then we'll get into 45 racing in January to try and sharpen up for Venice. I don't even know whether it's Venice or Naples actually. I think it's Naples. And then just go hard until we ship out of here. We want to be set up and sailing again in San Francisco by June, early June.
Okay, well thanks very much. All the best.